Let's talk about the 2007 film, Why Did I Get Married, and ponder what could have happened in the film if things had gone differently. Remember how Mike and Sheila were married and Trina was Mike's side chick pretending to be Sheila's friend who they brought on the marriage retreat with them?
And y'all remember how upon meeting Sheriff Troy, Sheila continuously tried to hook Troy up with Trina. Well, what if there was an alternate timeline in Why Did I Get Married where Trina and Troy actually do hook up? Oh yeah, we gotta talk about this.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. So we have done so many videos on Why Did I Get Married in this series with the original film and the sequel. And we never seem to run out of things to discuss. And so we recently posted a video on this channel about Mike's cruelest moments to Sheila. And it was a comment on this video that got us thinking. And if you haven't seen this video, it's linked in the description. But here is the comment exchange that we had. Twinkle Toes said, I always felt it was odd that Sheila ended up with a man that she was willing to set Trina up with. They had a bit of chemistry too. And so our response was, that's a good point. I think that at the time, Sheriff Troy was open for love to come into his life. So he was open to Trina. I wonder if they could have made it long term. I don't think Trina would have liked the mountain life, though. And so this is what sort of spawned this idea of what about, we're always doing fan theories, but this would be more like fan fiction. Let us imagine an alternate universe, an alternate scenario where Trina and Troy actually do get together, right? So consider this our fan fiction of Trina and Troy's story. So imagine that when Trina arrives at that cabin, she begins to reflect on her actions as a side chick, and she feels bad about carrying on this torrid affair with Mike, the husband of her supposed friend Sheila. Right under Sheila's nose, of course. So let's set the stage. She's just arrived after taking a plane to Colorado mountains with Mike, leaving Sheila to drive the entire way from Atlanta by herself.
I'm going to give up my seat, okay? I just won't go.
No, what good is that going to do? Then I'll be uncomfortable.
And then he's like, why don't you take the bus? Then he's like, what? Why don't you drive?
Take the bus. That's it, drive. There you go. I'll pay for the gas. And get the money back for that ticket, too.
And she says, I'll see you guys up there.
I'll see you guys up there.
See you when we see you.
Trina's received a cold reception from the other wives about her behavior, showing up with her friend's husband, right? Without her friend. And so they're walking up and they're like, that's Mike, but that ain't Sheila.
Is that Mike? Yeah, but that ain't Sheila either.
Everybody's trying to figure out, what in the heck is going on?
Who is this? I'm Trina. I'm a friend of Mike and Sheila's.
Diane was like, beneath her breath, kinda, where's Sheila?
Yo, where is Sheila? You let Sheila drive up here alone?
Do you have any idea how long that drive is?
So they was talking about, you let her drive or whatever? No, he made her drive, like he said.
As they're all about to go in, there's this situation where Mike picks up his own bag. He doesn't pick up Trina's bag, which leaves Marcus to try to pick up Trina's bag because he's trying to be a gentleman. And then Angela slaps the bag out.
Hey, girl,
I don't know, but I'm starving. She can carry it.
Maybe all of this has her reflecting on her actions, and maybe Trina feels bad. She wants her own husband, and she wants to be a couple like the other couple she sees in the group, not the side chick. So Trina might feel so bad that she doesn't let Mike sneak into her bedroom that night. And maybe she even tells him that she doesn't want to fool around with him on this trip. This move by Trina robs Angela of the opportunity to see Mike sneaking into Trina's room. Remember, it's the sneaking into the room that confirms for Angela that Mike and Trina are indeed carrying on an affair.
I saw him. He was in there up until 2 hours ago.
The women are in the kitchen cooking breakfast and stuff. The women except Trina, and can we call her a woman? But anyway, yes, the women besides Trina, Angela is telling them, hey, I saw this dude creeping down there. He went up into that room, y'all.
If Angela can't confirm the affair, it solves the issue of Angela spending so much time trying to convince the other ladies to tell Sheila that Trina is sleeping with her husband. And she's like, I'm telling her first, as soon as Sheila gets here, I'm going to let her know what's going on.
Yeah. And they're like, no, some people get angry. They don't want to know stuff like that.
Wait a minute.
Wait for what?
We don't know what kind of state of mind she's gonna.
I'm telling her.
No, Pat's right.
And Angela, it's like, if it was one of us, we would want to know, right?
But sometimes people get angry at you for telling them.
But then none of the other women said, hey, I wouldn't want to know. They was just like, man, she might not want to know.
Right.
They didn't say, don't tell me.
It also stops the disastrous dinner scene from happening because none of the women will be aware that Mike and Trina are actually having an affair. Of course, Mike will still brag to the other men, but they're going to keep his secret. They will know that they've slept together.
Who is this girl?
She's sexy, ain't she? Are you hitting that?
But I guess he just wanted them to know for sure. Hey, yeah, I'm really doing it.
Say nothing.
And you bring her up. Whoa. You bring her up in here, man.
But they'll keep a secret at least long enough for the marriage retreat to conclude. So once Sheila drives up that mountain to save her marriage and shows up the next morning with Sheriff Troy. Hey, divas!
How are you?
Imagine that in this alternate universe of events, Trina is more receptive to spending time to get to know Troy. Next thing you know, Sheila is like, Trina, this is Troy. And I talked about you all last night.
Trina, that's Troy. I talked about you all last night. Girl, he is single.
Maybe they actually do go out for a ride and he shows her the town. And maybe Trina actually does begin to like Sheriff Troy, genuinely. After all, we do see in that dinner scene that Trina and Troy have an apparent chemistry before all of the arguing pops off.
Then we have some little banter going on with Troy. He's like, oh, Trina, you dropped your napkin. He's trying to, little flirt with her and stuff.
Dropped your napkin.
Oh, well, thank you.
Welcome.
And Troy says, yeah, I'll show y'all around sometime.
I'd love to show you guys around before you leave.
Thanks.
And then they get into, how this place is beautiful and stuff.
No, snowmobile. I can do that. We'll race or something.
What's so funny?
Mike is very jealous of Troy and Trina. They're kind of being flirtatious over there. And then you have Angela basically pushing the issue, right?
Mike, can you please let these single people have a private moment?
I agree.
We'll get back to that dinner scene in a moment. I just wanted to jump in here to encourage you to join our free Patreon tier. Yes, we have premium paid memberships on Patreon and YouTube channel members who get exclusive content, early releases, and other perks. But we are now also offering a free Patreon membership tier where you will get videos that are not offered to the general public on YouTube. For example, we just dropped a 3.5-hour watch party for the new Luther Never Too Much documentary on our free tier where you get to watch the full movie along with us in our commentary. If you like what you see, you can join one of our paid membership tiers later, or you can just remain as a free member with no strings attached. This free Patreon membership does not give you access to all of the paid exclusive content and early releases that our premium Patreon and YouTube channel members enjoy, but we wanted a way to offer you a better viewing experience without many of the restrictions that we have on this platform. So come on over and join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. It's easy and free to join. You can simply log in with your Google or existing social media accounts and begin enjoying Axiom Amnesia's Patreon. Now back to the show. But let's talk about how Trina would bond more with the ladies as a result of Troy being her apparent love interest. The women don't like Trina, not only because they think she's sleeping with Mike, but because she's an attractive single woman who is flittering around their husbands.
And if she's such a good friend, why is she here with Mike, and why didn't she drive up here with Sheila?
So the women are in the kitchen and Trina is out there with the men. And then they're like, if she's such good friends with Sheila, how come she didn't drive there with her? Because that's what we would have done. And then, the great doctor, Patricia, is like, maybe we should just wait before we pass too much judgment on her and see what's going on.
Let's find out what's going on and make sure we don't pass too much judgment on her.
Patricia is like, hey, we're going to go to the kitchen and cook. Come on, Trina.
Mm-hmm.
Trina, we were gonna get dinner started. Why don't you join us?
Trina's like, nah, I'm just going to stay and hang with the boys. You know, I'm no good in the kitchen.
I am so not a woman for the kitchen. I'm gonna stay and hang with the boys.
Trina prefers to hang out with the men instead of hanging with the women, which furthers their suspicion that she is up to no good. However, in this alternate universe of events, Trina is indeed feeling Troy. She would certainly be telling Sheila about this. She might even mention it in front of the other ladies, and this show of interest in Troy would undoubtedly make the other women more receptive to bonding with Trina. They would lower their guards some because they'd be less worried about Trina and her entertaining their husbands, right? Let's talk about the shopping trip. You know, the one where Trina recommends a nightgown for Sheila to buy because Mike will like it.
Now that is gorgeous, Sheila. It would take 2 of those to fit half of my behind.
So then when the ladies go shopping, we see that Trina makes a suggestion in the window of some outfit. You know, I'm like, okay, what kind? Well, we already know what kind of friend Trina is. Trina just
Suggest
needs
that she wear something?
go to hell is what
All
Trina
right,
needs.
yeah, but...
All right, Sheila, honey, look, I gotta tell you something.
Angela.
So in this scene, Trina comes in the way, right? So when Angela's about to tell her, Trina pops up like, oh, Mike would love you in this.
Sheila, look at what I found in your size, girl. Girl, Mike is gonna love you in this.
And you remember how that went, right? Sheila wears the nightgown and Mike totally clowns her in it and says that Trina set her up, leaving Sheila feeling worse than ever about her weight and her marriage.
Hey.
The hell you got on?
First thing Mike says is, what the hell you got on?
Trina said you might like it.
And then he literally laughs in her face.
Trina lied.
And while he's laughing in her face, she's telling him, I want us to work.
Mike, I want us to work.
I love you. I've always loved you.
I love you. I've always loved you.
What do I have to do to make it work?
What do I have to do to make it work?
And then he continues with his cruelness.
You could lose about 50 pounds. Then I might be somewhat attracted to you.
Any idea that she had of being able to
Save her marriage.
yeah, is just smashed.
Look like the cow that jumped over the moon.
And just, I mean, this is like one of the saddest scenes in the movie.
Trina set you up. You need to smack Trina.
We should also note that Trina was really only interested in Mike's money. This is evidenced by the fact that Mike is complaining about how much Sheila spends at the banquet that's at the end of the film. And by the sequel, Trina is nowhere to be found when Mike needs someone to help him with his cancer treatments. But in this alternate universe of events, maybe Trina's actions in that store could be interpreted differently if she had a genuine interest in Troy. Some of you argued that you thought Trina was being nice by suggesting the gown that Mike would like, while others felt like Trina was definitely setting Sheila up for failure. But in this alternate universe of events where Trina is really feeling Troy and her interest in Mike is waning, Trina may have actually wanted to help undo some of the damage that she caused by being involved in Mike and Sheila's marriage in the first place. So her actions recommending the gown could have been to help get Mike off her back because she's less interested now, and to help Sheila, who is this pitiful character in this moment, who needs to make her husband more attracted to her, right?
Wow.
They were married for 45, okay?
So they're sitting around at dinner and Sheila makes a toast to love.
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 So now for the dinner scene, which would be quite different in this alternate universe of events. Mike would still be rude to Troy and would try to belittle his job and status because Mike is jealous that Trina and Troy do have this chemistry and that they're giggling at the table.
No, snowmobile. I can do that. We'll race or something.
What's so funny?
Mike is very jealous of Troy and Trina. You know, they're kind of being flirtatious over there. And then you have Angela basically pushing the issue, right?
Mike, can you please let these single people have a private moment?
I agree.
And she's basically like, hey, maybe y'all two should go out after this for a drive or whatever.
Maybe after dinner you two could go for a ride or something.
Mike gets really mad and he's like, no, she can't do that.
Trina ain't going nowhere with him.
And Sheila asks, oh, wait, what? Why not? And Angela says, yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, Mike, why can't this single woman go out with this single man?
In this alternate universe of events, Mike would still be upset. He would still remark that Trina ain't going nowhere with Troy. But the explosiveness of this moment will be diffused without Angela instigating it and instigating Mike's confession of why Trina can't go anywhere with Troy. In the original version of this tale, everyone at the table except Sheila and Troy know exactly why Mike won't allow Trina to go anywhere with Troy, because he's sleeping with her, right?
So Mike can tell us why Trina can't go with Troy.
So then it just comes out and Angela tells it all.
Okay. Let's do it.
It's because she's sleeping with your husband.
The reason she can't go with this man or any other man is because she's sleeping with yours.
Sheila's just like, what?
What?
And Trina got a dumb face on. Then Troy is trying to make his exit. He's like, all right, y'all, I just think I just need to get on up out of here.
Well, you all, thanks for dinner, but I should be going.
But in this alternate universe of events, only the men, minus Troy and Trina, know this secret. So there will be no big blowout and Mike throwing a tantrum and revealing all the secrets of all the other couples. Mike might still say that Trina ain't going nowhere, but the others at the table are likely to be dismissive of this comment and chalk it up to Mike simply liking or being interested in Trina, not that they're actually in the throes of an affair with each other. They'd probably just tell him to shut up or ignore him. And so, in this alternate universe of events, the dinner concludes and maybe Troy and Trina actually do go for a ride that night and see the town, spending some time together and getting to know one another before Trina leaves. Of course, what this means, though, is that Troy and Sheila never get the chance to get together, because them getting together is only an outgrowth of Sheila staying in Colorado after this big blow up at dinner and Mike asking for a divorce and then leaving the retreat with Trina.
Is it true?
And Mike didn't deny it at all.
Yeah, it's true.
He just said, yes, it's true. That's my secret. I'm the bad guy.
That's my secret. I'm the bad guy.
But then he tries to deflect and say, I ain't the only one with a secret at this table.
No, I'm not the only married person with a secret at this table.
But yes, you are the bad guy.
You put my secret out there. Let's put everybody's secret on the table, shall we?
And then he proceeds to tell everybody's secrets at the table that he's aware of.
Then he's like, I'm sorry you had to hear this like this.
I'm sorry you had to hear this way. Take your friend over there.
And then he said, baby, go pack us up to Trina.
Let's cut this trip short. Baby, go pack us up. We out of here.
And now he's sitting down to tell Sheila what the deal is.
It's over. I'll be more than fair, but I want a divorce.
It's over. You know, he even snaps his finger in front of her face because she's not responding to him.
Whatever.
She just turned and busts a bottle right over his head.
And the bottle broke pretty easily, and he was just left unconscious.
Yep. And she walks out the door. And then you hear the old Negro spiritual hum. But back to this alternate universe of events. The retreat goes as planned, and everyone returns back to Atlanta. When they get back, Trina officially breaks up with Mike. Trina and Troy have this long-distance courtship for a few months, with Trina flying out to visit him regularly. And because, you know, Troy is about his business, maybe he decides that Trina is the one, and he proposes. By now, perhaps Trina is in the friend group with the ladies, mostly fully accepting her, right? So when Trina says yes to the ring and the dress, the whole crew goes back to Colorado for Trina and Troy's mountain wedding. Can you imagine what the look on Mike's face would be when he watches Trina walk down the aisle to marry Troy? But in this alternate universe of events, Trina and Troy do get married and they settle into life together in Colorado. They'll also become the fifth couple at Patricia's marriage retreats. So that's one scenario on how Trina and Troy could have gotten together in an alternate universe of events in Why Did I Get Married? Now, This version is not nearly as ratchet and action-packed as the film actually is. You know, the film that we've all seen and love and can't stop talking about. But at least it provides a foundation for us to discuss the possibilities and the questions we have about how all of this might have actually turned out. So we should get to some questions about this. The first question is, would Mike have interrupted the marriage, you know, when they're having the wedding? Do you think he would have made it a point to tell Troy that he smashed Trina in the past?
If all the previous happens that way, then no, but yeah.
I mean, you don't think Mike would I think Mike's personality is that somewhere along the way, like this is a great fan fiction story, except that I think somewhere along the way, Mike won't be able to help himself. He's going to say that he smashed Trina somewhere because, you know, if you think
why wouldn't it be at the dinner?
But I don't think he would say it at the dinner because he would just be frustrated at the actual dinner, right? But later on, like when there's an actual wedding and Trina and Troy get married, and then when Troy now is going to be like the dude, the extra guy who's there with them when they go on these marriage retreats and when they're hanging out together being couple friends, I just think he's going to be annoyed with Troy, Mike would, and Mike would tell. He would just be like, well, you know, I used to hit that, you know, because Mike, that's the type of, you know, person that Mike is. I don't think he would have let it ride. And of course, that probably would have led to some disaster because I don't think Troy is the kind of guy who would have liked to know, you know, that. But
then it will require leaving the bride at the altar.
But what if it happened after, right? So I think Troy would have left her. Troy would, I don't know. If Troy found out something like that, I don't know.
Yeah,
would Troy still marry her?
What? What's so wrong with them, right? Somebody who she used to mess with in the past. That's not any different than.
But that there was this affair going on and that she was conducting the affair at the point when he met her. The only reason he met her is because she was the side chick, right?
I mean, but you made it to the point that you're getting married now.
Yeah. So I guess he should, well, maybe he should go to the comments. Do you think Troy would forgive and marry Trina if he did know and find out kind of at the last minute that Mike used to smash and that she was the side chick? You know, because there might be some implications as far as Troy is concerned from a moral perspective, right? Troy seems pretty moral, pretty upstanding. And I don't know, would he care that she used to be the side chick? Go to the comments and tell us what you think about that. What about the question of would Mike interrupt the wedding? You know, at every wedding they say, hey, if anyone has any reason why these two should not be married, stand up and, you know, say your deal, right? Do you think Mike would say?
No, I don't think so.
He would just sit there and not say anything.
Yeah.
I don't think he would interrupt the wedding either.
Yeah, so the thing is, right, if all this happens, then he's still with Sheila, right?
Yeah, Mike.
And she's still getting beat on and everything, right? So,
we would still have to talk about that because that's actually one of the questions we're going to answer.
Why would he just interrupt if he's still married like that? Because he's keeping up that facade. Like he did at the retreat, right? It was basically that until it came out and somebody said something. He didn't come out with it.
This is true. He was forced by Angela. I say forced, but you know, Angela instigated that happening at that
she
table.
said it, right?
She did say
it.
He
said because he's sleeping with him. That's right. Yeah.
And then he admits it. You're right. So Angela actually is the one who let that cat out of the bag. Mike probably wasn't ever going to say it. Not in front of everybody. Because Mike had told the dudes already. You know, that was one of the first things he said was, yeah, that's me right there. You know, so he was bragging on it already. So here's my other question. Would any of the husbands tell the secret to their wives? So in this alternate universe, the husbands are the only ones who know that Mike and Trina are having this affair.
No, the problem is that all the men are friends, right? But if they're not friends, then probably, right? If it's just some dude who came along on a trip and you'd be like, yeah, you know, he was smashing that lady. But I don't understand how the women don't believe that because the whole thing is they showed up together without Sheila and I made her drive and we came together. It's like the same thing happens at the table.
Obvious. But if Trina seems like she's starting to be interested in another guy and she doesn't seem interested in Mike, they might actually believe. No, I do. Like, I think they would still be suspicious, but there's the point where when the girl seems interested in somebody else, that
But if it starts off, your first impression is she's a hoe, then she gonna get with any guy, right? Of course she got with Troy too, because she get with every dude. And now my evidence is that she showed up with Mike.
Well, go to the comments, y'all. Tell us about Trina. But I was thinking that maybe it could be believable that their guard is dropped a little bit when they see, that
if
she's
you write the movie,
Troy.
then that's what the characters become. Sort of like with the Furious Styles one. Oh, that ain't his son because he's a good father. But if you change it, then you would have to change your perception of that character too. So if you write it where they don't suspect it, then they don't.
It makes you question things about the character when it is written into the character. And so that is true. The events of the film do inform you about who these characters, who they are. You say that none of the husbands would tell the secret. I think, I don't know. But the question is, if a husband was going to tell, go to the comments and say which husband you think it would be. Would it be Marcus, Terry, or Gavin? I think it's possible that the husband would tell, but I don't think not on this trip. I think that the secret would last long enough to get out of this initial retreat. But
if it's over, does it matter, right? To
some people, it might.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just like, okay, now they got together, they got married, then that whole past thing doesn't matter anymore. Because look,
some
they
people
got
would
together.
be like, but it was built on a lie,
Well, maybe women, right?
Okay, so maybe the guys would look at it differently. Like, okay, he already done wifed her or whatever. No point in bringing it up. No point in saying it. But what happens? And see, what I think is, I don't think that they're gonna tell Sheila. I think what would happen is Marcus or Terry or Gavin would have some type of interaction with their wife. And then they would tell their wife, and the wife would tell. Like, that's how I think.
I don't know which one was the chatty patty.
Terry.
See?
I don't think it would be Gavin. I feel like it would. I don't know because when they were on that boat talking in the second,
it came out with Gavin, right?
It came out with Gavin.
Yeah, so Gavin probably.
So
would
maybe
do it.
Gavin would have just been bumping his gums too much to Patty. And then tell. Or I think Mark, I don't know, maybe they're all equally have the potential. Because see, Marcus could get into it with Angela, right? They're having their typical make up to break up arguments or break up to make up argument. And then he's like, well, at least I'm not as bad as Mike. Cause you know what I'm saying? Like, these are how these things can come out. At least I'm not as bad as Mike. You do know that Trina used to be Mike's side chick. Somebody is probably going to say that in their pillow talk somewhere.
What in the world?
And then you have Terry. And that Terry is the one, of course, played by Tyler Perry. Would Terry tell? I don't know, because Terry is like the one in there who seems like he tries to cover, right? Terry is the one who realizes there's a problem. Terry's the one who's always trying to run interference. Even in the second film, when we see that Marcus is famous now and the women are interested in Marcus, he's trying to, and they're at the airport, he's trying to run interference like, because he doesn't want trouble for his friends. So he is the one who would be the liar, the coverer. And so I think Terry might be the least likely to tell, maybe. And he got his own problems and he needs to worry about what Diane is doing with that lawyer. So so I don't know. But if I was going to say, it would probably most likely be Gavin, but it could be Marcus. But Marcus wouldn't do it intentionally. I think he would do it in the context of trying to defend himself and his own cheating action. So here's my other question. Would Trina ever confess that she used to smash Mike? Is this something Trina would ever tell Troy? Like, now that they're married and they're settling down and she's like,
we don't know anything about her.
All we know is she's a side chick. And I don't know. Like, this is one of those things where her one action just makes you conclude all sorts of things that may or may not be true about her.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. But like, can you imagine that Trina would ever confess that she used to be Mike's side chick? Would she tell? Would she tell Troy this?
What? Why would she tell her husband?
I think she'd take that to the grave. Like, she ain't telling Troy that. But what about Sheila? Her and Sheila, now she's in the friend group, and her and Sheila really have grown
and then
closer.
Now all the friends who are your friends know. It's different if the friends don't know her, and then she tells Sheila. Yeah. But now if you tell Sheila, you told, I don't know, 8 people.
I don't think Sheila. I don't think people. Trina is telling anybody. And I kind of think that regardless of what her personality is, regardless of her decision, like she wants to purge or something.
Some people tell though, so I don't know.
Oh man, I really don't know. And I think if they tell, maybe they would have told more toward the beginning, right?
Well, if
before you get
in,
to the point of being married and all that.
Yeah, if you want to throw in some of that added drama in part 2, then somebody tells. Maybe she tells Sheila, and Sheila is embarrassed like before and in denial, and she doesn't say anything, right? And then
that could happen.
And was there like a little blow up or anything that happened in the second one? I don't even remember what happened in the second one.
In the second one, I mean, there was, but the second one really centers around Patricia and Gavin and their unexpectedly explosive marriage falling apart and them announcing that they're getting divorced, right?
At the retreat?
At the retreat.
Okay, so yeah, I think maybe that's when Sheila comes out and says.
So Sheila's like, and in addition to that,
I know.
Trina been sleeping with my husband because Trina is now there with Troy. It's
like Squeaky. Is her name Squeaky?
Squeak.
Yeah, Squeak. She's like, I'm leaving my husband too.
I'm leaving too. I want to go. Where were they going?
To Memphis.
I'm going to Memphis too. Squeak had packed her bags too, in the color purple. But yeah, I mean that, So here's another question. Exactly how does Trina get rid of Mike? Like, okay, in this alternate universe, she's liking Troy and she's not really wanting to be with Mike anymore. How does she get rid of Mike? Does it work just to dump Mike when they get back to Atlanta? Or is Mike going to still continue to pursue her or be like, I done invested, I done paid money for you, basically, because, a man like Mike probably think he done purchased her because I'm sure he bought her plenty of things to just entice her along the way, even before they got together officially, right? So how does Trina get rid of Mike?
I don't know.
Go to the comments and let us know.
Do you dump a side person? Like what?
How does the side chick dump you?
Yeah, well, even the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like what?
I think Trina just like, I'm done. I ain't trying to be with you. And she just stops taking his calls. And then, Mike probably show up at Trina's job because, a dude like that is going to try to be in control. So he'll probably show up.
Don't they work together?
Not Mike, no.
No, I'm talking about Sheila.
Sheila, I kind of think maybe.
Job.
I think maybe Sheila worked with Trina or somehow was talking, because when they were on the plane, she was like, you need a vacation, and she was talking about that. But I don't know, maybe she's just talking about Trina's job.
Why she just gave up her job like that, though?
It's very unclear.
And stayed in Colorado.
Well, look, she had nothing to go back to, and hell, nobody would loch. These
and then
days,
she got
job
married.
Ain't nothing to go
they
back
sold
to.
everything, got married, and was struggling because because they had the baby and she wasn't working no more.
But maybe she didn't really have a job. It just seems very gray to me. It seems kind of unclear. Was she working with Trina and Trina was her work friend and that's how they knew each other? Did she used to work with Trina but she doesn't work anymore and Mike is the only breadwinner? Because if that's the case, how come she doesn't have her own money? Now, yeah, we could get into Mike being the controlling husband and stuff, but why doesn't Sheila have her own money if she has a job? You know what I mean? Like she was like, I can't even keep my cell phone on, or all of that. Like, why didn't she have at least a little bit of scratch, given the lifestyle that they were living?
Paycheck.
You know what I mean? So yeah. And even though Mike was a real butthole, like I believe Mike was paying like all the bills. So if Trina had, Trina.
Maybe it was like what Eddie Murphy talked about, right? What was it? Now we got $1,200,000,000 or whatever the joke was.
Mm-hmm. Which is all the more reason why she could have just had that set to the side, and it doesn't explain. So I kind of tend to believe that maybe she didn't actually have a job anymore. Maybe at some point she did have a job, but not anymore at the time the film is taking place. And that maybe she knew Trina from the job, or maybe she just knew Trina had a job. Maybe who knows where she met Trina. But yeah. So, but I think Trina would have just dumped Mike and she wouldn't have cared because Trina was cold-blooded and she didn't like Mike to begin with. Trina didn't like Mike. She just saw...
She didn't like Mike? What?
No, she was just with him for the money.
Why do you say that? I don't agree with that either.
Because it was convenient. She saw that he had money and that he would spend it on her. And it was convenient. She liked him enough to be the side chick, but I don't think...
Yeah, it's just an assumption, though.
Okay, it is an assumption.
Right? Like, maybe she...
Do y'all think Trina really liked Mike? Go to the comments. Do you think she really liked him, or
I don't know,
do you think
but
she
I
was
just
using
think
him?
any woman who get with a so-called successful man, they probably want the money. So, like, how is it
Okay.
any difference?
So
right?
so
They
yeah.
probably be like, okay, I ain't getting with a guy unless he make this much. Is it just for the money,
So
or
in my
it's,
mind, I'm like comparing that to like if Trina would have gotten with a broke guy, like she really likes this guy. She got with a guy who was broke or something.
yeah? But even if somebody get married, would they get with a broke guy and they just didn't, right?
Yeah, well,
You know,
good points.
maybe
all good
Sheila didn't
points.
get with a broke guy because of the same reason, right?
Yeah, although since they met in college, they all technically were probably kind of broke at the time.
Yeah. What if Troy was just the guy who did maintenance or whatever at the little retreat?
Well, we have to
He was
talk
the
about that. This is a
groundskeeper.
really good segue because the question is, were Trina and Troy actually compatible? Would they have even made it to marriage? Because I feel like Troy wanted, and I don't know, maybe even deserved, but he definitely seemed like he would have wanted a girl, a wife, a woman who had some level of virtue about herself, and more like we saw Sheila being.
How old was Troy?
Troy was probably in his early 30s.
Okay, it took him a long time.
Well, he was married before and had gotten divorced. So this was his second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But were they compatible? I'll say this. Troy definitely liked what he saw. He was giggling and smiling
We don't
in her
know anything
face.
about Trina.
Yeah, but listen, we know she liked to spend money. Would Troy have wanted to spend the money
so many
like
people
that?
like to spend money.
Yeah, but okay. Do we feel Troy was the type of guy who liked to spend money? If we just look at the evidence from the film.
We just know in the second one he don't have any money to spend.
And in the first one, probably the reason that he had a little something was, his parents had a house that he had inherited and, that he was renting out to them, which was a nice big place. He worked a regular job because he was the sheriff of the town, right?
Yeah,
he had his own house in addition to that house, so he was like he had a little something, but he wasn't super rich. I don't think he had as much money as Mike.
He probably really did like to spend because when they actually got married, then they didn't have any more money after selling the stuff. So they must have spent it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You always throwing a monkey wrench in the assumptions that, about Mike and Trina and Troy, but you might be right.
You know what I'm saying? Like he had all that stuff, sold it, went to Atlanta. Now we need to hurry up and get on a job because we ain't making it.
Well, which was weird to me, the whole move to Atlanta when he's with Sheila, right, that we see has happened in the second film, because I feel like he succumbed under his love and pressure for Sheila, I think. Because I think that was the reason why he was so resentful and angry, because I don't think these were decisions he would have made were it not for the pressure from Sheila, right? Sheila wanted, in some ways, I think, to still maintain the lifestyle she had before, and things with Troy were a little bit different. And they got even more different
She
once
got with
he was
Mike
broke.
just for the money.
Well, but he didn't have any money when they got together, because they got together in college.
Yeah, they got
So
married
he
in
wasn't a
college.
step.
Didn't
or
we have some
soon
questions
after.
about that? If you go back and listen to what we done before, I think we had questions about that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we did. I can't even remember. Listen, this is probably like our 12th or 13th video on the Why Did I Get Married series, and each one of them being like an hour or two long. So, I don't know what I might have said in 26 hours worth of content about this movie.
Yeah.
But this is a question that I do wonder.
Okay, well, she stayed just because of the money.
I think she stayed because she loved him, but I think that you get used to a certain lifestyle. And I think she just made assumptions about the lifestyle that she maybe could have. She was like, okay, I have love now with Troy, but I also am used to driving this Benz. I'm also used to, not having to, think about budgets and whatever, maybe. And so things got real different. And we did see in the second film how when the ladies were having their massage or whatever, and Diane is like, well, it is kind of different, because you got to worry about money, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Right. So they all recognize that she's not living at the same level that she was living with Mike.
Yeah. But I just think we have nothing to go on who Trina is, but we can create it.
I mean, we could. Okay. So what are the facts we know about Trina? All we know is that external things, right? She was pretty. She liked to flirt with men. She seemed to prefer to be around the men than the women. She wasn't interested in cooking. She liked to spend money. Why are you laughing? She liked to spend money. Her morals were such that it was okay that she would befriend a woman and also be sleeping with the husband. Her morals were okay that she would leave her friend and not ride with her friend to ride with the friend's husband with whom she's having an affair on the airplane when the friend is kicked off the plane.
Yeah. And what do we know of Troy? What did Troy say when Sheila showed up at the station? Do you remember?
Okay. So they just first thing he does is he's like, hey, don't go up that hill. Come in here. It's a jail cell, but you can stay here for the night because you ain't going to make it up that mountain.
He made comments on her marriage.
Because he was like, hey, your husband letting you be out here like this? And I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I think there was judgment there, right? So I would say Troy is judgmental. Because he's like,
everybody judge on certain things.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? But so we don't know how he feels about the side chick thing either. We know what he thinks a husband should be doing.
For his wife. Okay, that's true. We don't know how Troy would feel about the side chick thing. And then but we do know that Troy is talking about his parents being married for 50 years and what a wonderful marriage that they have. And presumably that may not have included the side chick.
So let's go with the whole traditional thing when people talk about the grandparents and the grandfather was cheating and grandmama,
down the street.
grandmama stayed with him to have long-lasting marriage. Right?
Listen,
so maybe he was a traditionalist in that sense.
He was a traditional man with a side chick or a mistress.
He probably would have ended up having Sheila as his side chick when they got back.
Shut up. Do not even go there. Like this week. This is making me think about so much. So what you're saying.
So the part 2 already made people think that Troy was a bum. I don't know why, but yeah.
Well, because he didn't have
terrible,
a job.
And he was arguing.
He jumped to conclusions about his wife possibly cheating with her ex. But she was concealing
he should have jumped to that conclusion.
Yeah, it was like anyone
but it was about
a reasonable person would have thought that.
Yeah, him not wanting to tell people about his situation and all that.
Being prideful.
Yeah.
By the way, we talked about kind of like a man being prideful as we talked about Curtis in the movie Roll Bounce. We did a whole live on the movie Roll Bounce. And and later, if you're watching this, you might actually see a video that specifically talks about Curtis, the daddy in Roll Bounce, and how he was hiding the fact that he had lost his job. And every day he was getting dressed in like a 3-piece suit to leave and act like he was going to work when he really didn't have no job. He was looking for a job and stuff like that. But it was his pride that, had him trying to keep up appearances. So, yeah. So this brings me to the question of, all right, so Trina and Troy in this whole fantasy world that we have just created on this, the offshoot fantasy, right? Because the whole thing really is a fantasy. It's all fiction. Do Trina and Troy, okay, they get married, but do you think they could survive long term? Like, do they have a long lasting marriage? Will they have the marriage that Troy envisioned having with his parents had?
I don't know. I guess that depends on Trina, but we still don't know Trina.
It's okay. But do you think Trina be happy in the mountains?
I don't know. I don't know Trina. I have no idea.
All right. So let's go back. We're going to talk about Sheila and Mike. So if this alternate universe of events happens, then Sheila and Mike, when they leave that retreat, they're still together. Mike might be a little perturbed that his side chick seems to be getting away with him, but Sheila hasn't lost her husband. She's going back to Atlanta with Mike, even though Mike is trifling and, just a cheater and a horrible human being. They are still together at this point, right? So do you guys think that without this catalyst, do you think Sheila ever would have left Mike? Because really Mike left Sheila. Yeah. Mike left Sheila. And I think Sheila would have stayed with Mike, even with all that happened.
Did he really? I think a bottle over the head is leaving, possibly.
She does bust him to the white meat in his head. I don't know.
But so if this all happened, does he eventually leave her because he don't like how she looks?
She bust him on the head because he said he wanted the divorce, though. He said he wanted the divorce first. He snapped his fingers, baby, come on, get our clothes, get our stuff, get me out of here. Then she bust him over the head with the bottle. So he left her first. And I think that had it happened where he was like, yeah, I'm cheating with her, I think Sheila still would have went on right on home with her husband. Just with the knowledge that he had a side chick.
When did he find out he have cancer? So once he find out, he ain't saying nothing.
That's true.
Because he needs somebody to take care of him.
Yeah. And we know Mike would have been motivated by that because he still had the nerve to come back to his ex-wife over in her
and he
happy
knew the whole
marriage.
time, and that's why he went to the retreat, right?
But I don't know what would make Mike think that. Oh, yeah. That's why he went to the retreat in the second one. I was thinking about the first one.
Yeah, the second one. So
He went to the retreat so he could get her to entice her back to come and take him to his chemo
there was
treatments.
probably not enough time for them to break up, I guess. How many years later? Was it the next year?
Well, I don't know because, fiction time might be different, but the movie came out in the second movie was 2010 and the first movie was 2008.
I don't know if they made mention of it.
So like 2 years.
Maybe they say a couple years ago. I don't remember exactly.
Or no, 2007 was the movie. So like 3 years later. And by then, their baby was like maybe almost a year old. And so.
Oh, yeah. And
talking about.
But the other kids were, we talked about how their ages probably didn't
were
add
weird.
up.
Yes. So there were some things that didn't completely add up by the time we saw the sequel. But yeah, what would have happened to Sheila?
Because Terry and them had very old kids.
By the second one, yeah. So,
so we don't know the timeline. So I don't know.
We just have to forgive the timeline. It just works like that in books and stuff and movies. So Mike and Sheila. So would they break up eventually? Would Sheila have ever left Mike? This is a question.
No, I think it's a question of if Mike leaves her.
Okay, does Mike ever leave Sheila? Well, maybe after he survives his cancer battle, he's like, yeah, I'm done with her. Or maybe Mike has a come to Jesus moment. Maybe his cancer turns him around and
then he tells her, he's like, and I wanted to just clear the air. I was smashing your friend Trina.
Nah, I don't think Mike ever admits that to Sheila. But I do think maybe he realized, maybe there's a universe where Mike realizes that he's been a horrible human being. And because of his brush with death, with the cancer, if he survives it, then he's like, I'm turning my life around, right? And then he stays with Sheila and he treats her better. There could be that universe out there. Now, I don't really think a leopard normally changes their spots that much. And that would be a huge, huge, huge turnaround for Mike. It's not completely impossible. We see it in fiction all the time where, the person, Ebenezer Scrooge, and the person who was just so horrible has this character arc that brings them to being a wonderful person. But in real life, I don't know. I don't know if that really would happen that way. So here's another question, I guess kind of the final question as we get to this, is this. How would Trina and Troy hooking up have affected the relationships of the other couples? We already talked about Mike and Sheila because they would have probably stayed together and, whatever might happen to them. But let's talk about Angela and Marcus. If that blow up doesn't happen, then Mike doesn't expose the secrets about, Marcus getting treated for the STD and Angela busting out, oh, I knew, boom, and all of this and that, and him trying to choke her out and all that. None of that happens in that moment. So how does it affect or not affect the relationship between Angela and Marcus?
That's just their relationship. So no matter what.
I think it would have been fine.
Because they still stay together after that, right? And whatever was happening in the second one too, so.
And then, so let's talk about Diane and Terry next. How does what got exposed about them was like Terry had their baby tested, DNA tested, right? And, whatnot. And Diane had her tubes tied behind Terry's back. So these rather explosive revelations come forth at this dinner party where Mike is jealous and tells. So if that doesn't come out at the party, then how does... I just think that since Diane and Terry did not break up, I think it would have just kind of been the same deal.
So then they don't have the girl. Right?
Oh, the
girl
baby.
Was the younger one,
yeah. Okay. Go back and have another baby to reverse the Did she reverse her too? Yeah. They had a third kid. Refresh my memory.
Oh, no, they only had 2 kids, right?
Well, no. Okay, so when they're in the first movie, when they're in...
Oh, it's 2 of them in the first one.
Yeah.
See, that's what I got
she's
wrong.
Like, I'm not having another baby. Don't get me wrong. I love my daughter and whatever, because this is what Diane and Pat are talking about in the store in the first movie. But she's like, I love my daughter, but I ain't trying to have no another baby, right? Because Diane is really into her career. And, as an attorney, she is done with the kid thing. She doesn't want to have another kid. And we see, Terry wanting another baby. So you know, I don't know how this really affects their marriage, but I mean, I don't think it's catastrophic. I think this was a bump that they got over. It created a lot of mistrust that, well, no, it exposed it because they already had mistrust.
Though?
How does he find out what?
That she had her tubes tied.
Because Mike tells at the table.
No, I'm
right?
talking about if that don't happen.
Oh, he doesn't.
Yeah. But then he still have the whole thing where he got his co-worker over there sexually harassing her.
Oh, yeah, in the second movie. So, but you know, I think they just kind of keep on like they've been going. And it's just that the lack of trust.
Maybe they break up because he's like, wait, but why isn't she trying to do it with him?
I don't know.
What's the reason? I think that was one of those things we took an issue with in the video.
Discussions. Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess Diane and Terry
she was with that
is
dude
up in the air.
In the second one.
Yeah, the other attorney.
And
so
they still stay together.
Yeah. I think they don't break up. I just think that their lack of trust that they have with one another is exposed in the moment that Mike tells their secrets. But they survive that. It just, you know, they got bumps in the road as a result of some of that stuff. Now, Patricia and Gavin, listen, I think the way that this affected them, if Sheila and Mike stay together, if Trina and Troy hook up and get married, Gavin is still alive at the end of the second movie. I do not think that Patricia and Gavin have the terrible end to their marriage that they wind up having in the end of Gavin, because what was exposed here was so, like, you can't even come back from that. Like the fact that Mike exposed that Gavin came to the door and was crying after the loss of their child, saying, how could Patricia be so stupid to not lock the baby into the car seat, right? And, you know, of course, the baby had died as a result of the car accident where Patricia was driving in the rain and the baby wasn't locked into the car seat. Okay. So
maybe she don't have her next successful book and stuff.
I don't know,
because it was about
you don't.
It was about grief and
grief
stuff.
And pain. Yeah, she never meets The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock don't get to get with her.
You know, but I think that Patricia and Gavin's. So, do you think their marriage would survive? They still got problems, but I think their marriage might have had a way better chance if that had not come out. Because I do believe there are some things that when you hear and know and become aware of them, like it's no coming back from that. There is no amount of forgiveness, I don't think. When you blame.
But she ever get to the point where she accepts the loss?
Right, because, you know, she was having the issues where she couldn't look at the baby's picture. And Gavin was like, remember him, you act like he didn't exist. And yeah, I mean, you know, they just needed some really, really intense counseling. She had a whole lot of nerve being a whole psychologist and a counselor and everything, and sitting up there with that level of with that level of problems for herself that were left undealt with. No, she needed to have been on somebody's couch.
Like, dang, you should know, hey, I trust in my discipline in my profession, so let me go ahead and talk to somebody.
Yes. So that brings us, though, I think, to kind of the end of a discussion about what would happen if Trina and Troy got together. Go to the comments and let us know what you think about the idea. Could it have worked? Could they have lasted? Would this have been the wonderful hookup? Would it have solved a lot of problems for the other couples? Be sure to let us know what you think about that.
If you made it this far into this discussion, go ahead and type "not a side piece" in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to join our free Patreon tier, as well as check out the video that's on the screen right now.